ID, you've done all these things. Can you see this very clearly? Can you? I think I should switch to a light. Tim. Perfect. Okay, I think this is much better. All right. So basically, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be taking a look at how e-commerce infrastructures work. And just to get us started, I would like to define some terms and help us understand what we'll be talking about throughout the entire workshop. So who has heard about the term composable before? Composable? Nobody. Who has heard about monolith? Okay, a few people. Okay, nice. Right, so if you know what a monolith looks like, it looks like something like this, where you have the front-end layer and the back-end infrastructure coupled together in one system. That's happened for like several years, and then several issues arose from this process, from the developer experience to the customer experience over time. And then we eventually had something like this, which we usually call headless, which basically decouples the front-end from the back-end layer. And then there is the API layer, which is the intermediary between both of that. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that, with working with CMSs and the rest of that. So that's pretty much the headless approach. And then we have composable. And what composable microservices do now is that you decouple the logic in the entire app. You have the front-end layer, and you have different microservices. For example, you have the commerce microservice, which handles everything e-commerce. You have contents, and then you have search. Same can happen for some other different microservices. And then each of these microservices is communicated to the front-end layer, and that's pretty much how composable work. The idea is you are composing different tools together to develop what you're trying to do, right? And in e-commerce, this is what it looks like. So many of what we'll talk about today, it's more of like high-level business scale e-commerce engineering, which is why I think you're all fortunate to be here this morning, because this is like real stuff, if that makes sense, right? So I would explain how this works from a business perspective and how developers get to implement something like this. And at the end of the day, you would see how the commerce part works, which is like our main focus for today, and how you can also use the other sections you have. Because the goal here is you're trying to build a solution where every person in your team works on an independent part of the application. So for example, the commerce microservice handles everything related to the commerce logic, transactions, payments, SKUs, and everything around that. And then contents people focus on just content, product descriptions, images, and all those stuff. Why those handling search focus more on personalization, when you want to see particular products that align with your interests and all that stuff. So that's pretty much how it works. I think I've explained how this whole thing works. And then today I would show you how you can achieve something like this with Commerce Layer. So let's just get started with the workshop lessons. I can see like 5 laptops, which is cool. So I don't know if you can access this repository on your end, right? You can you? Or you, okay, you need the link. So I mean, it's just github.com/bolajaideji, then put that repo there. So you can access that. Is that cool? Okay. So we'll do like a quick unit. And basically, SKUs are like individual identifiers of different variants to be sold. Now, this is what I mean. If I want to sell this shirt, it's a product, a shirt. but there's a blue shirt and there's a red shirt. Those are two different items, right? So if I wouldn't say the blue shirt is the same thing with the red shirt, but the SKU identifies each individual variant of a product. Does that make sense? That's why if you observe, if you're trying to buy a t-shirt, you see like XLL behind some URLs, and then you see large and you see SM. Is that making sense? So basically, each of those individual units represents the SKUs. And that's pretty much the fundamental building block of the product itself. And yeah, so sometimes you see stuff like this. This is what like an SKU code looks like. There are different standards for it, but most people try to do, you put the code of the product, and then you put the variant description. So if it's differentiated by size, you can do like XX, XL for extra large, XX, XS for extra small, that kind of stuff. If it's related to color, you can do anything you want, basically. And that's pretty much it. And then we have other stuffs like SKU options, which basically, you can try to personalize certain SKUs. So for example, when you want to buy a shirt, you want to put your name on it. When you want to buy something, you want to add something extra before you purchase it. So SKU options allows you to, now, these things we're talking about is like the technical points, right? Is it making sense? So I'm trying to show you what works underneath, for example, when you try to buy stuff on Amazon. This is the entire thing running behind. Each product have SKUs. There are also SKU options when you want to try to, add some emojis to your Apple AirPods when you buy from Apple. And then we also have something we call SKU lists. And basically it means that you can group many SKUs in a list and assess them in several ways. You can do different stuff like apply promotions to them and all of that stuff. This is also one thing that people use when they try to build that part of your e-commerce store. And then we also have bundles. I'm sure we all know bundles, right? Have you tried to buy something from Amazon and they tell you it's frequently bought with this? So it's like a bundle of 3 different products together. Yeah, so this is like kind of how that one works. And then we also have stock locations, right? So basically you need to know if a particular product is available before you can sell it. Makes sense, right? Now, again, just so I can say it, these things you're talking about are actual business logic that is physical, most of them. But this is how it's being implemented from a technical standpoint, if that makes sense, right? So if I'm trying to buy a t-shirt, the black variant of it, I need to know how much more of that t-shirt is available in a stock location. Now, that stock location is also based on who is buying. So we have markets. We all know what markets are, right? So a market is not necessarily defined by the geographical location, right? It might be defined based on how you are going to ship that item. What that means is that I can group Nigeria and Ghana as one market, or maybe Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and call it like the African market or something. It's not in the same geographical region, but I can call that one market. And what that means is that I'm shipping products to those 3 countries from one stock location. Is it making sense? You can have multiple stock locations. It's based on however you define your inventory. And that's what we call inventory management, right? And then we also have what we call inventory models. The different models and how you manage your stock, how people, you're familiar with returns. You buy a product to return it. Now, is it making sense how you see that those things work with the stock location? Because I can't just return an item anyhow. It needs to go back to the stock location that is closest to me or within that market region. And that's pretty much how all of these things work. So there are different strategies like, split shipments. Have you bought something, you bought 2 items the same time, they didn't arrive the same time. They came in 2 different shipments. Familiar, right? So that's pretty much what's happening. Split shipments, you can ship from the primary stock location. If you have 2 of the items in this stock location and the person wants to buy 5, you can't deliver 5 to them. So you split the shipment, 2 from here, 2 from here, that kind of stuff. That's how all of these things work behind the scene. And then we have stock items. This is basically what tracks the number of items that are available to be sold. Now, picture this again. You have the SKU, which is like the single identifiable unit of that variant of item. You have the stock location. The SKU is more like a technical thing. It's not physical. It's like a label. Then the stock item tells you how much of that SKU is available in the stock location. Making sense, right? And then we have price lists. I'll try to be very fast with prices. We have price lists, you have currencies. Now, we are talking about something different from the traditional way of selling where it's just, one sales, Naira, for example. The example I gave about like selling in Nigeria, Ghana, Rwanda, those are three different currencies, if that makes sense. So Kenya uses Kenyan shillings. I don't know what Rwanda uses. Nigeria uses Naira. So you can have prices for one SKU in different currencies. Is that making sense? So what I'm selling for 10,000 Naira in Nigerian Naira is being sold for 20,000 Kenyan shillings for the same SKU. Now you see the reason why this is already becoming a nice way to structure e-commerce. So this is how modern scale businesses structure everything. Imagine you have a system where it's like just one product, one price, and then you're trying to convert the price at the end of the day. I mean, exchange rate differs, so there's a lot of issues with that process, and it doesn't work well for international markets. If you're selling for just one market, maybe just in Lagos, it works to just use only Naira, if that makes sense, right? So you can set different prices for one SKU, different currencies. And then, you can also do stuff like price tiers and all of that stuff. We already touched points on how markets work, but I'm sure many of us are familiar with different market. You've stopped seeing this for like how long now? Just now? Oh, okay. I think they'll try and fix that, but I'll just continue talking. You're familiar with business models like B2C, B2B, right? Right? You're smiling. Who knows what B2B is? Sorry? I should not be asking you, you would know that. I need someone here. Okay, B2C. C2C. That's cheating. Okay, yeah, so there are those kind of sales. And then you can also do VIP private sales. There are different ways you can structure your stuff. So you will see this workshop is going to be more of like, I take you through how the business stuff works, and then we'll see how it's being implemented, basically. And then we have shipping, shipping categories. If you observe when you try to ship some things, you see like fast, express, and all of those kind of stuff, determines how fast you get the product and also how much you get charged for shipping. And that's also determined based on your location, being that if I'm shipping to someone in Ghana, ideally it's already an increased price compared to someone I'm shipping to in Lagos. So the price is different. If you choose express, it's also different. So shipments and shipping category, handle all of those things based on the stock location also. And then we have shipping zones, we have shipping methods. So basically, shipping zones is more like a location in the market itself, right? You can group different locations into one, similar to how I discussed the stock location thing. How many minutes? Just now? No, okay. And let's just keep going while I think they try to sort it. So there are different shipping methods defined by the currency, right? You have shipping category, shipping zone, stock location, and then you have the weight of the item. The weight of the item also can determine which area the product is going to be shipped to, and then, it's attached with a cost. And then there's what we call delivery lead times. You've tried to buy an order, and then it tells you to arrive in 5 days. Have you seen that before? You've seen that before, right? So basically, that is calculated based off the stock location, what you are buying, the shipping method you've decided to pick. So if you choose express, if the regular one was 5 days, you might get it in 3 days. So this logic is how all of these things work behind the scenes. Still not showing. Okay. And then we have, you now get to the parcels and the packages. Now you've gotten through purchasing an SKU. You've picked your price, the currency, the shipping method, and then they are like parcels. I mean, it's not the physical parcel itself, but that same physical parcel has to pass through technical logic before it can be shipped at the end of the day. And then it ends up in like DHL, for example, and then they bring it to you, if that makes sense, right? So that's pretty much everything. Then we have payments. Yeah, we have payments. We have payment gateways. We have payment methods. And then we have stuff like taxes. We're pretty much familiar with payment gateways. Gateways like Paystack, Flutterwave. And then we have methods like pay with your card. Makes sense, right? And then when you're trying to place an order, so I'll just run you through like the anatomy of how an order works generally. So a customer visits a store, you try to purchase something, you select the item you want, and then you add them to cart, right? And then if you want, you can apply a discount or not, and then when you add to cart, that's a draft order, if that makes sense. And why it's a draft order is because the order is not attached to anything, it's not attached to any customer. So when you now, the draft order is going to be labeled as a pending order until you add your email address, if that makes sense. You can purchase something as a guest and all of that. So you need to associate the order with one person. This thing I'm saying doesn't happen like this physically. It's on the technical standpoint that you do all of these things. Already when you just add an order, it just goes straight for the user. But this is what's happening behind the scene, right? And then you enter your shipments and your billing address, you select a payment method, you select your shipping method, the prices are summed up, and then you make your payments, right? So when you make your payment, 3 things happen behind the scene. When you make a payment first, it's authorized, but you need to capture the payment. I don't know if you observe sometimes you pay something, it's not debited from your account yet. So basically, the payment has not been captured yet. Basically, what that means is like your bank communicating to the how do I put it? The person handling the merchants receiving of that money and then taking that money from your account, transferring it to that end. That process needs to happen. Some people call it a settlement process, but basically your order is authorized, or rather your payment. And then after the payment is authorized, it will be captured. So you can cancel your order before it is captured. If you observe, sometimes you place an order, they tell you can cancel within 3 days or something. Depends on how they structure the logic. So you can cancel before it's captured. Nothing will be debited from your account, if that makes sense. And then when it's captured, it now becomes approved. Until the order is approved before it can go through delivery and the rest of the stuff. That's pretty much a crash course on how e-commerce works behind the scenes. There are more stuff to talk about, like promotions, how gift cards work, and all of that stuff. You can already begin to picture how it works with the prices thing I explained. When I put a code, there's already a price attached to an SKU. You decrement a value from it. It reduces the total price and all of that stuff. That's basically how it's working. So now that we have an idea of the anatomy of how this works, the next thing will be for us to explore what it looks like in an actual environment with, an actual store with a front end and all of that stuff, and seeing how micro front ends and everything can power a modern infrastructure for e-commerce. Now, basically, what we are going to be doing is we're going to be using the Next.js demo store project. It's open source. It's something that you can use to build an e-commerce store where each part of the logic is handled independently. So I will explain how that works later on. But the cart you see, it's a different app. Checkout is a different app. And then you have the UI. And then you have your content. For this demo, we basically store the content as a JSON file. But I mean, in an actual production-ready platform, you might want to use like a proper content management system for your content editors to like edit the product details and everything directly. So basically, demo store comes with all the content in JSON file, full catalog management, taxonomies, taxons. So have you observed when you try to check a store, you see all male, all female, you see category gender, category size, category, color, there are different categories and stuff, right? And sometimes they even do this category based on location. So like taxons and taxonomies are like it's like the structure of the product itself before you get to the actual variants, if that makes sense. Of course, you can search and like go directly, but this is pretty much how you would start. And then there is like built-in search, and then there's multi-language. Now, we've talked about selling internationally in the intro, Rwanda, Kenya stuff. You also do not just want to give them different prices, but also different, language and all of that stuff. So you can also set all of that thing up. And this is where composable commerce comes in, right? Because the idea now is that e-commerce, your commerce logic is separated from everything. For example, the tool would use Commerce Layer allows you to handle all the transactional functionalities of your e-commerce. So everything, prices, SKUs, all the things we discussed, promotions, everything, handled separately. You set up all those things, you set them up, and then you can now use an API to consume those things and then put them into your brilliant UI. And then that way, your content editors can also create like different content. We call them content locales. So you can have English, French, and that stuff. And then based on the markets you want to sell to, you pair that market to the language. Is it making sense? You observe, you see some stores, you see something like, usually the format is like FR, okay, let me use French for example. FR/FR, no. The country code is FR. And then the language is like FR. So the slug is going to be like country language. So if I want to switch to English on the French market, it's going to be like FR/ENUS. That's pretty much how the logic would be changing based on the markets. Usually, it's kind of like a good practice not to suggest a language directly for people because I might be in Ghana. No, I don't. Does Ghana have an official language that's not English? Sorry. My current affairs teacher would not be happy with me right now. Does anyone know? Is there an official language in Ghana? What? Swahili? Sorry, there is none. Really? Twi, yes. Thank you, Twi. So there is Twi, right? So I might be in Ghana, I don't speak Twi, so you don't want to just suggest a language to me based on where I stay. So you give your users the opportunity to select. You can suggest, being that we see that you're in this location, does this look like where you are? I would decide and then go there. Or you give them the option. So we'll see how that works. And for example, this is what that looks like in a store running locally. Try to speed this up. So you see the slug thing I was talking about earlier? It's very small. Let me try. Okay, it's bigger now. Yeah, so you see the category based on the region, and then you see each of the countries. For example, if I choose Nigeria, then it's going to use English. If I choose France, it's use French, and all of that stuff. So that's with that. We have like very short time, so I would try to speed up on how all of this would work, right? So basically, I don't know who is like joining me to do this hands-on, but I mean, this is available publicly. You can try to do it on your own at your own pace. But if you want to follow through, I'll just run through how all of this would work. So basically, first things first, you sign up at Commerce Layer, create an account, and then you create some applications, and then you get some credentials, normal how you work with APIs. Sorry, how many of us work with APIs here? How many of us have never worked with an API before? Don't be shy. Okay, nice, cool. So, but do you know what an API is? You do. Okay, makes sense then. So, there are 2 onboarding guides that would help you set some of these things up. I'm sure most of you are not using your laptop, so I can skip that. And then, you set that up, and then you're ready to go. Basically, we have API credentials. Quite a lot of technical details is going into this, but there are different kind of tokens you use to access different type of resources based on what you are doing. So basically, we have 3 application types: sales channel, integration, and web app. So the usual websites where you purchase is like a sales channel. So basically, that's what you need here. You're just trying to get your commerce data and then putting it on the web for someone to make a purchase. And then we have different grant types that you use to get a token. I'm just going to try and make it as client credentials means that you're using the API credentials you got from Commerce Layer to access and get a token. Why password means that you're trying to associate a customer to an order, for example, if that makes sense. So if I'm purchasing a product as a guest, you don't need to do that, or when it comes up back, right? So basically, what that means is that you observe you can have stuff like wish lists, where I can see like my products. Also in the account area, you can see your history of products. For you to do all this kind of logic, you need to associate it with the customer. If you're just doing stuff like buy, sell, deliver, you don't really need all of that. The client credentials is sufficient, which is what we'll be using today. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you are with me, you can go to dashboard.commercelayer.io, sign up, follow the onboarding tutorial. So basically, this is how the demo store works. There are 2 repositories. There's a demo store core, and then there's a demo store. How many of us know what submodules are? Git submodules. Git submodules. You know what Git submodule is? Yeah, nice. So basically, it's like a repository in another repository. It's just linked. It's not really like it's there, but it's linked, and it allows you to like reuse. Okay, cool. It allows you to reuse some kind of parent repositories where you need them. Right. So what we did here now is we try to have like a core, and then we make that accessible as a template on GitHub. So when you're trying to work with the demo store, you have two ways. You can actually use the core repository itself and do your stuff. But what that means is that you will diverge a bit from the original source, being that you cannot really update when we make new changes and all of that stuff, which is fine if you know what you're doing. But if you go to the demo store route, you can set things up. If there's a change, you can run this command here. Let me try and zoom up a bit. I think my face is covering the main stuff. Okay. You can run git submodule update remote to like get the changes from the parent repository. So again, you are not all doing this hands-on with me. So all you have to do is, for example, you go here. So if you come to the demo store, you would see this use this template stuff here, and then you create a new repository to like clone everything for you, and then when you do that, you have a fork of that repository like you would see in the demo we are going to be working with today. You see it's a fork. You'd see this generated from, basically because it's like you're using the Git submodule itself. And then, you install it, you run all these commands. Again, you're all not doing this with me, so it's going to be difficult for me to tell you, okay, do this and do that. And it will take quite some time for me to do it for you to see. But basically, I have all of that all set up here. And then the main important thing now would be that you pass in your client ID and the sales channel endpoint. We know what a sales channel is already, right? Okay, so when you sign into, no, that's the wrong one. Dashboard. I hope my internet is working fine. Okay. Just going to check forever. Okay, so basically when you create your account, you have like an environment like this. You can create different organizations. You can have different people who have access to that organization. And then, in the applications tab, you create an application. So for the case we are doing here, like I mentioned, we have sales channel, web app integration, right? So you use a sales channel integration here. And then when you go to that tab, you get like your client ID based endpoints, like basic API credentials kind of stuff for those who are used to working with APIs, right? And for those who are not, this is pretty much how you work with APIs. They give you like a token or something, and then you use it to access something from the platform. And then when you get that, you pass that into the repository you've cloned. There's this env file here where you put those information. As you can see mine here. The worries are all demo stuff, so you can look at it. It's fine. And then when you're done with that, remember I mentioned the fact that your commerce logic is being handled by commerce layer, for example, which means that everything you see on your store, for example, let me show you this. Everything you see on your store starts from you setting all the products itself. For example, you need to, set up all the SKUs. This is what I was talking about when I mentioned SKUs. This is one SKU, and then you see the code, reference, and a bunch of other stuff like weight and all of that thing. And then, you have to set up a SKU list, prices. You need to set up a proper inventory for you to be able to sell. So you need to do all of these things normally when you want to work with composable infrastructures. But in the case where you are trying to do a demo like this, we have ways for you to like seed the organization with some test data that would enable you to like just, test things, right? So If you are doing this with me, there is like a command here you can run, it's just going to seed everything and then you do all of that stuff. Perfect. And the beautiful part of this is that when it comes to the store, so let me show you the store and how it works. Basically, you have like the product, and then you can change the country based on the location. For example, let me use France. And then you would observe the slug also changes, and then there are some taxons here. There is the cart, which is a separate app itself. It's using what we call the hosted cards, and then there's the hosted checkout. You see how all of that works shortly. So basically, for you to update what you see, we have 3 files. There is the data JSON file, which includes everything related to the content, right? And then there is the locales, which includes everything related to the language and the translations. And then there is config, where you try to make some minor changes. So let me show you what it looks like. So here you have JSON. You see all like I said, this is not what you would do in an ideal setting. This is like just the raw data and how we try to ensure that the next year's project runs well. And then you have like countries. You can see here, you observe we have the name of the country, and then we have a market code. You get this market code from Commerce Layers N because you've created all those markets before. Now, remember what I said, a market is not usually tied to a geographical location, meaning that I can create one market for the United States, for Australia, for Canada. It's going to use one market code, but even though it's like different countries. So a market is not really a country by states. You define what a market is based on the locations you would be selling to. And then, you set the languages that are applicable to each of those countries. And then you have like languages. We only have 3 languages on this project: English, Italian, and French. And then you can set up some minor thing like the name, favicon, colors. And then you can also create some pages. And then there is the product. Now, this product is the content. We always maintain the fact that content is not commerce. And this is the problem with the monoliths, because you try to put everything together where you are able to edit the content and then still use the same thing on the UI aspect. So what I'm saying now is that what you see here is not the same thing about everything that happens on the commerce logic is the transactional functionalities, which means you create an SKU, you create all that stuff. The content people would write the product description somewhere, and you link them up with the SKU. What that means is that when I'm making an API request to fetch this particular SKU. The API returns the products, the prices, all those stuff. And then you fetch data from your content to request for content for that SKU. So if the SKU match, obviously you use the same content. Is that making sense? So basically all this content here is like a simulation of what that would look like from the content perspective. And then you have like the images, the slug, and all of that stuff. Everything necessary for Next.js to work fine. And then same thing for taxonomies, for taxons, and all of that. Why for locales, it's pretty much the same thing. You assign different, you put the name of the, what's it called? The name of the items you want to put this. Let me use the one that's not English so it makes more sense. For example, you see here it's like a view all, and the same view all in English, but like the language is different here now. And how it's working now is that the entire application is using each of those JSON files. So when I switch, it picks the language I want and then renders it. And that's pretty much everything around language. So if you want to add more languages, all you have to do is like do this same thing. For example, you want to add TWI. Maybe you put like a tw.json file, replicate this, put the translations, and then in the countries, I think here, yeah, you can add like CW here, which basically is going to reference that language file for this country, if that makes sense. And that's pretty much how all of this organization work. I don't know how much more time I have, but that's everything with the locales. And when you're done with all of that, you would have this working fine. It's a Next.js project. I believe when you all try to do this on your own, you would see how to set these things up. The repo is available for you to explore. Once you do all of this, you just run npm run dev, and then you have something like this. As you can see, you see the product name, you see the price. So let me show you something now. What country did I select? France. Okay, let's do Italian, Italy. I think my computer just shut down, but that's fine. So, how many more minutes do I have? So, we're going to do the remaining one freestyle, if that's fine. How many? Okay, that's fine. So basically, I wanted to show you when you select a different language and you see the text change and everything around how that part works. So basically, you have all the products on the homepage. 10 more minutes. Okay, thank you. So basically, you have all the products. You select the particular SKU. I would have showed you how you select different variants because we have a part where you see different colors of a shirt, for example. You select that, and then you would observe that the slug would change because you're selecting a new variant. I've explained how those things work already. And then you're picking a different item, even though it's the same product, right? And then when you're done, you add to cart, and then from add to carts, you check out. So the whole point of this entire stuff now is that you're building a composable infrastructure where the UI is separate from everything. And if you observe, we've not talked about anything back end here, servers and doing all of that stuff. You're not doing all of that here. We're just showing you the front end part now. For everything related to the transactions and all those functionalities, you set them up on commerce layer, and then you use the APIs to access that data, if that's making sense. At the end of the day, on the UI aspect, you just consume this data, products, do this, do that, and then you get a functional e-commerce store, if that's making sense. And the benefits of this being is that, one, you are able to get a better developer experience and a better customer experience. And I'll explain what that means. So in the monoliths, like I mentioned earlier, you have everything coupled together in one system. And you have different teams working on the same code base, everyone making changes to all the same code base. You are deploying that same app for everybody. So if I make one change to one part of the app, I have to deploy everything again and all of that stuff. And then sometimes there's also ID overload because it's a large code base for stuff that I don't need to do my own job, if that makes sense, right? So having a composable architecture means that you're making your developers happy in the first place. Those working on the front-end part. In fact, some teams go as far as doing what we call micro front-ends. Do we know what micro front-ends are here? But we know microservices. So it's more like microservices for front-end. Same way you have different microservices for different parts of the application, you also extend that to the front-end. So for example, you have a search microservice, product microservice. Let me just use that too. You can also have a search micro front-end. And it means that you extract the logic of search into one independent application, and then you connect all together similar to how the microservice would work. Is that making sense? I'm sure you've heard people say, I work on the search team at Microsoft, or I work at this product team at this. They're working on different apps. That's pretty much how it works. So at the end of the day now, your developers can all work on independent teams, and then content people can do their job brilliantly well without interrupting the technical stuff going on. So you don't have something like for example, WordPress, where you have the products, the content, everything in one environment, meaning that content editors can now be more creative, do their stuff, create all the products without interacting with the code. And at the end of the day, everything comes together from the API aspect, and then you connect all of them together. Now, from the customer part, if you observe, some of the downsides I mentioned now for the developers also apply to customers, being a sense that when you're having ID overloads, for example, and then you still have to deploy that same application, when you're making changes and doing all that stuff, it's still going to affect what you're deploying. So if I make one change to the entire application, I have to redeploy everything. Is it making sense? Is it making sense? How many of us here have businesses, e-commerce business where you sell stuff? So I'm sure I'm speaking to business people who have an understanding of what it means for you to sell, and then every second counts, being that you find large businesses when they try to sell, they tell you that people they have what do they call them, abandoned carts, where you add 5 products in the cart, but they don't buy the product. Do you understand that part? Those business terms where you see that people are not buying the products, right? Each second counts, and then it matters. And at the end of the day, you realize that value of that sale is from one slight glitch. That's just a 1 second thing, and then it stops customers from purchasing. So the point is, we kind of get into the whole technical thing that we forget that you're building for customers. It has everything to do about them first before your text. At the end of the day, you can build the most luxurious logic, but you lose some customers. And the entire aim of your e-commerce store is to satisfy your customers, to make sales, to make money. That's the goal, right? Are you selling for some other reason? So every amount counts, right? So when businesses say they want to scale, you observe that they're having issues with that existing architecture because it's affecting the sales part of everything. And that's why you now try to do stuff with composable, being that not everybody needs to do this. Because you can imagine what we've discussed, like a lot of work, a lot of setting up SKUs, doing all that stuff. So if you're selling t-shirts to like people in Lagos, you have like 100 customers averagely per month. You don't need to do all of these things. A monolith will work fine for you, being that you can still scale with that. When you begin to sell for like many people, you have like issues with traffic and all that stuff, different locations, you want to sell for more markets, you wouldn't want to try doing stuff with WordPress at the end of the day because at that point, every amount counts. Now, doing this means that you build a perfect logic that you can now scale with your developer team and your customers can now have much more, a better experience. It's kind of a myth when people, if you're familiar with e-commerce businesses, they say that they try not to change anything in the checkouts because they know that that's where like the main value is, the money. So checkout is usually bland for many e-commerce platforms because they're just trying to be very, very careful. And that's also because like there's no flexibility to do anything. Any slight thing would break the entire application. And once it breaks, you lose your money there. Doing stuff like this now means that everything is independent. You can easily be flexible to I wish this was also, I show you how the checkout works and how flexible you can go with that. You can now do anything you want, be more creative, more flexibility, and then the checkout experience can work fine, can be deployed fine, separate from how cart, for example, works. For example, in this demo we have, the cart works by using the order ID. What that means now is that when you create an order, you have an order ID. In that order, you can have multiple SKUs. I'm sure by now you can add Amazon, engineer to your resume after this workshop because you can now see how, this is pretty much how it works behind the scene, right? Amazon has built all the entire infrastructure for all these things we've talked about. And at Commerce Layer, we've built that also, and then we are offering it to you as an API, being that you can do the same thing Amazon is doing on a different scale, right? And then, you get the order ID with all the SKUs. So when you go to the cart application, all that you need is just that order ID. You can see how beautiful it is because now I don't have to worry about anything. It's just a dynamic app. You pass the order ID, you fetch the resources, you see the cards. When you click checkout, it opens a different app that takes the order ID and then renders like the form with the billing address and all those stuff. You fill the details, you send that data to the API, attach it to the order ID, and then you see your order is your payment is first authorized, and then captured, and then approved. Everything with just the order ID. And that's pretty much how the entire composable architecture works. So if you're a small business, it's something you can play around as developers because the ecosystem is changing and growing. So people want to hire more people with this kind of experience. There's just few people hiring WordPress engineers to build e-commerce store for them. I don't think Nike, for example, would hire you to build something like that for them. And all brands now are, I keep looking back thinking you can see, but yeah, all brands now are building more composable architectures, using headless to scale their businesses because it's growing. That's the point. So your skills would probably work fine for small-scale businesses, right? So it's like a personal advice for you to check out stuff like this and try to learn more about them. It's not conventional. It's not what you find many businesses doing, but as you keep, I forgot to ask this question. I don't know the category of engineers I have here. Front end, back end, right? What do you do? Sorry? Full stack. Okay, we have some bosses here. Decide to do both. And then, you have different angles to that. So people like this now want to, you want to have this kind of skills. And it's not just for front end, for the back end guys, even other areas, because now you observe that the process for this is quite different because it's like a lot of independent applications, splitting stuff, layering, connecting things together. That's the idea of composing. You pick different things together and compose them together. I'm sure you're familiar with stuff like Auth0, Okta, for authentication. All those things are all independent apps. And the beauty now is that brands can select what works best for them and implement it, compared to when you've implemented your own authentication stuff. Tomorrow you want to change something. It's very, very difficult, right? I could be using Auth0 today and easily decide to switch and migrate and do what works best for my product. And another beautiful part being that each of those independent composable tools are secured. So you don't have to handle security yourself I'm done. Okay. You don't have to handle security yourself where you now have to everything, now picture it, front end, back end, you're handling security, production, everything. It's now a complex stuff. And that's why it fails when you're trying to scale for large businesses. But in this case, you focus on the commerce. You pick a different tool to handle this part. It's secured. You wouldn't pick a random tool. That tool employs people to build that stuff. So it's not like they're building trash. They're paying people to build those stuff. So you are sure that this is secured, and then you can pick different tools together and then compose them together. And that's pretty much the idea behind composable commerce. I don't know if all we discussed today made any sense. Did it make sense? Do you think 50 minutes from now you knew less than you know now? Are you sure? So if you go to the other room now and someone interviews you, you can just be... All right, so I don't know if you have questions. You can obviously reach out to me. I don't have my slides, but on the schedule, there's where you can send messages. I would also put all the slides, the repository codes, and everything for you to check out. But is there maybe one question I can take as I'm walking out? So I would assume the guy who is coming will be slow. So one question as I'm walking out. Anybody? Anybody? So before you leave, anyways, I have some nice stickers and swag for people who are here because you're all special. The others left me. They left me behind. One question. Okay, yeah, while I'm packing. I'll come to you, don't worry. But you can ask. Oh, I said I could come to you, and I said you should ask. Okay. Okay.
You mentioned something about micro front end.
Yes.
So I'm a backend engineer,
Okay.
and I know with microservices you connect to API gateways
Yeah.
and stuff. How does micro front end connect to get
Same way.
API gateway?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you observe, I explained how the cat thing works, where it just works with just the order ID. It's a separate app. But at the end of the day, the order ID is basically how you're getting the data about the order from the UI itself and then rendering that cat logic. Basically, that order ID is coming from an API, right? So that's where the commerce part comes in, where the cat is like a separate app. The microservice powering the cat is a separate app. And then you can get the data. There has to be something that ties them together. In the case of an order, it's an order ID. In the case of content, it's the SKU code, right? So it's the same logic. I don't know if you saw the illustrations that I showed earlier, where you saw search front end, search microservice, and then you connect both of that together. And at the end of the day, so it's a much more technical thing because there are different ways to implement that. If you are using, it depends on the stack and the framework and all that stuff. In baseline HTML stuff, you can use what do they call these things? Web components and all of that stuff, where you can now begin to decouple different aspects and then have different elements that you can use. So there are different ways to implement the micro front end itself. That's like a full-blown workshop on its own, if that makes sense. But it's like API layer, basically. All right, thank you. So I have the one question. So I said I have some stuff. I don't know how this will go around, Sha, but can you help me? I don't know how you want to do it, but I need my bag back. Okay, question. I don't know. These guys are not coming, so let's keep going. So they're not. I saw two hands there. I saw one hand there. So let me start with the first hand I saw here. Whose hand was that? Okay, you. Is there a documentation for what I just discussed? Yeah. I'll share. So you have the schedule, right? Once I go back, I'll put everything under that, like the talk, this particular session. You see everything. Question from there. Okay, you're the second. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, as a developer, you want to explore, which means that you can try out these things. Yeah. But on a business standpoint, I would not advise you to do this for the starting point because you'll be spending a lot of time doing all of these things for no reason. I'm sure you might have realized sometimes people like talk about how microservices are bad. Yeah, there's like every downside to everything. So you need to have a reason to use this above that. So because microservice is like nice, doesn't mean you need to do that. It will still fail for you if you don't have a need. But as a developer, you can explore and try those things just so you know how it works, not really about the business part, if that makes sense. Yes, if you know you are gaining for the business part, you actually want to sell. It's not like, so if you are trying to do that, then you can build a monolith for now. But then if you want to like acquire the skills on your own, you can explore these things and see how those infrastructures work. Yeah, thank you. I think a lady raised her hands up there. Yes. These guys are not coming to stop me. Oh. It's like they can't see me.
We're coming.
Ah, they can see me now. Oh, shit.
I've been seeing you since.
My jazz has finished.
That your feel out. You're standing out.
This is the last one. Sorry. Okay.
So I want to know how commerce layout is compared to Shopify. Is it like a UI based?
There's no. Shopify is a monolith. It's kind of like WordPress where you have everything in one. So,
So your jazz has finally run out.
my jazz, I need to go and renew it. So I think you can meet me for more questions so I can let the event continue. Let's
Please meet him for more questions, past papers, all those things. Meet him. Did you guys enjoy the session? Did you guys enjoy the session?
Did you learn anything from the session?
Only a few people said yes. Problems. Okay. All right. Okay, so now that we're used to how the sessions are going to hold today, we have, some other sessions coming up as well, which will last for an hour. But before we announce the next sessions, so I'm sure some of you know the first 100 people get free breakfast. I'm sure you know yourselves. Someone said, oh, next time, get your ticket on time. Anyways, okay, so when we announce the session, on your way to your respective halls, please pick up your breakfast. And for those foodies out there like myself that ordered from Eden, please also pick up your food as well.
Yeah, so breakfast for the people that have access to breakfast, you can pick it up. And if you want food, Eden is in Mars, and you can go there and get food. Remember that. So now we're going to be introducing the next workshops. And there are 3 workshops. What this means is that one workshop has been moved. So if you check the schedule, you would see the update. So there are 3 workshops that we have right now. So the first one is titled Hugging Face and You, a hands-on open source journey into machine learning and NLP development. And that is going to be by, actually I don't see the name. That's going to be by
Stephen Kolawole.
And that's going to be happening in Neptune. So if you want to attend a session on natural language processing and machine learning, please go to the Neptune hall because that's where that's happening. And then the next one is on Canonical and Snap. And it's going to be by
Sergio Seshov. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, so if you want to learn about Canonical and how to use... How many people know Canonical here? How many people use Linux here? How many people care about Linux here? So if you want to, so Canonical is like an open source company that is focused on developer tools and things for the Linux ecosystem. So if you want to learn about Canonical and Snap, please head over to the Saturn Hall, which is also upstairs. And then the final workshop that we have here today is the Complete Developer Guide to Building in-App Notifications in Web Apps. And it's going to be by
our very own.
It's not loud.
On the disappoint, so our very own. Our daddy, Big Daddy.
That is Big Daddy. Well, so yeah, it's going to be by Prosper, and it's in this hall. So if you want to attend this session, stay here. If you want to attend the canonical session, please go to the Saturn Hall. And if you want to attend the session on machine learning and natural language processing, please go to the Neptune Hall. Note that there is no session happening in Mars.
So there is no session happening in Mars.
Yeah, I think my mic is back. There's no session happening in Mars right now. But if you want to go and eat food at Eden, be my guest. Thank you. Please, can you give it up for Prosper as he comes up?
Are we good to go? Okay. Hi guys. Hi everybody. Are you hungry? Eden is in the building, don't worry. So there's a lot of food. Okay, so I think my slides can show now. All right, I think we can get started. So how many people came with their laptops? Because everybody's going to code with me today. Oh. Did you come with your laptop? Or do you have GitHub on your phone? You can code on your phone, right? Then we are good to go. I want to assume that everybody knows JavaScript in the building. I'm not a JavaScript fan, just by the way. I code with PHP and Laravel. They call it the boring technology, but that's what we make money with. So if you're a Java person, or Python, or Elixir, or Rust, just try. If you don't know how to code JavaScript, just look at your neighbor and just copy whatever they are doing, okay? You can copy and paste, very good. So today, when I came here, I thought the workshop setting was going to be different, but I was given the biggest and largest hall, so I don't know how I'm going to go about it. But anyways, we are going to do it regardless. So I'm giving a workshop about the complete guide to building in-app notifications in web apps, right? Everybody here knows about notifications. You have received notification one way or the other. You've received on your phone. Maybe you signed up on Facebook or you signed up on Twitter. How many of you are on Twitter here? Almost everybody, right? Yeah. I'm sure some people are even subscribed to some people's profile. Is that correct? So when some people tweet, they get the notifications on their phone. Correct? Yeah, so you always get notifications, right? And one of the things I've discovered so far is that when you sign up on a web app, right, by default, you're expected to get an email notification or get an SMS notification or even a push notification, right? Whether it is a web app or a mobile app. And when you don't get it, you're wondering what's happening, you go back and check, right? If it is on iMessage or you're on Instagram, something is happening, you're expecting somebody sends you a message, you actually want to get a notification, and when you don't get a notification, you're worried, right? So this talk or this workshop is just to show you how you can simply and very easily build or integrate in-app notifications into your web apps. So when I was preparing this talk, one of the things I discovered was that notifications are literally the bedrock of communication between apps, right? Whether it is web apps or mobile apps, apps are always communicating with themselves, right? Even if you use, maybe you're trying to integrate Paystack, right? You have a webhook, you're waiting for a notification somewhere, something is processing for so long, you're waiting for an email notification, you're waiting for something, right? Every time you're waiting for something, and when that thing doesn't come, you're worried. Some of us have, Slack notifications, PagerDuty, all of those things just set up so that if something is going wrong with our applications, we can actually know and we can go and debug the problem. So, we all know this. I don't have to say it. If you say it, you're on your own. So today we'll just be focused on web apps, right? We all know about mobile push notifications, but we're not going to talk much about that. Today is just web apps. And I came up with this because I know a lot of people are just, many people started web development. Some people are very familiar with web. So this is easier to do than, going straight to mobile. So this is what will be the focus of today. Now, like I said earlier, there are different types of notifications, right? There's the SMS, there's email notification, there's push notification. For today, we are just going to be focused on in-app notifications, right? We'll be focused on in-app notifications. And if you still use Facebook heavily, when you log in, you always get in-app notifications. Somebody pokes you, you get a notification. Somebody sends a friend request, you get a notification, right? And then you have a notification center on your top right. If you're on Reddit, for example, and you're using the Reddit web version, when you check it, you get a notification, right? Any custom web app that you sign into, there is a high probability that there is a notification center set up so that when something happens within the app, somebody makes another action, you can actually see it when you click on the notification bell by the right. So let's talk about the pain points in building notification feature systems. So many years ago, right, if you wanted to build if somebody gave you a project and said, oh, let's integrate payments into this app, like I want to build an e-commerce web app, and I want to also, I want all my users to be able to pay me, right? So many years ago, like 10 years ago, it was a pain, right? In fact, when they give you that kind of project, there's a very high probability that you just run away from it. You're just like, no, I don't want to integrate payments because it was a hassle, right? But when Paystack came and Flutterwave came, they changed the game. It was now very easy for you to integrate payments. So I want to liken that now to notifications, right? Maybe you guys start a sprint and your product manager is like, oh, we need to build a real-time notification system in this app. The next thing you're thinking about is, I need to set up WebSockets. I need to set up this. I need to set up that. And some of you know that when it's time to set up WebSockets or anything that has to do with chat and real-time, some of us run away from it because of the hassles involved, right? Am I speaking some people's mind here? Some people have set up chat systems before that did not even see the light of day, right? It worked locally, and then when you deployed it to prod, it had so many problems. And then you people had to sunset that feature. It's like, you know what? Maybe they don't need to chat with each other. Let's forget about that. So I'm giving this talk today so that you don't have to worry about that again. When somebody tells you, or when you discover that you need to build in-app notifications in your project, you will remember this talk because I'm going to show you a very easy way of making this thing happen, right? So let's go back to the pain points. So, number one, setting up notification providers. Most times when you build a web app, the first thing you're doing is what? Authentication, right? Create an account, reset password, and when you reset password, what should the user get? An email. That's the default. So you go about looking for the email providers to use. Which one should we use? Mailgun. You can suggest SCS. Which other one? Mandrill. What other ones? NodeMailer. Exactly. So you set up those providers. You set them up. You put your credentials. You write the code. Boom. It's working. You are good to go, right? And you start using that email provider. Then your product manager comes again and says, you know what? Some people don't check their email, a lot, right? Or the users of these products are not people that like to check their emails. They like to receive SMS. So let's integrate SMS notifications, right? Then you start looking for SMS providers, right? Locally, you're looking, okay, who are the guys I can use? Should I use SendChamp? You look for another provider, and then you sign up on their platform, you get their credentials, you write the code again, and you add, right? Now, you have email, you have SMS, and then your product manager comes again and says, you know what, that's not enough, because people are not getting informed enough. Let's do push notifications, right? And then you go ahead and start looking for that. So, if you're following me now, you see that we've talked about 3 different channels: email, SMS, and push, right? And even within these 3 channels, you have multiple providers. Sometimes, have you set up an email system before that when you trigger an email notification, it takes about like 5 or 10 minutes before the user gets the email, right? And then you're testing the app, or the app is in production, you have clicked it, or somebody has done an action that is meant to receive email, and everybody is waiting at the demo and looking at it. But I've not gotten the email. What's going on? What's happening? And you, in your mind of minds, you know that this thing is working because you tested it last night, and this morning you received the email, right? You received the email locally, you received it on staging, and on production, this thing is taking time, right? So you're like, nah, it has nothing to do with the code. It has to do with the service provider. Let's go and check. And the service provider is telling you, we've delivered this notification, so if you're not getting it, you're on your own. Some of us have had that kind of issue, right? So at the end of the day now, you're now saying, if I want to switch from Mandrill to Mailgun or to NodeMailer, I have to go back again to the drawing board, and then I have to install a new package, I have to write code again, and do that, right? So these are some of the pain points. Having to deal with multiple providers and having to set them up with all of the different channels and writing custom code all the time. Then also switching between multiple providers is a pain point. Another thing I want to talk about too is the digest and the delay systems. So some of you might not know what this is. A digest engine, in fact, let me go back and give you an example. I'll use Facebook again. No, let me not use Facebook, because some of you don't use Facebook already. Let's use LinkedIn. Let's use LinkedIn. So one thing I like about LinkedIn is that everybody is a senior professional. Everybody is a senior engineer. Everybody is a lead developer, right? You know, even if it is just a small project that you have, that you started working on in 400 level, as long as you have been working on it for the past 5 years, you're a lead developer. And you put that in your resume, you put that on LinkedIn, right? So when you open LinkedIn, the first thing that pops up, at least for me, is I see all the message box pop up, right? People are sending you messages. Then the next thing I check is the notification. Then I check the feed, the timeline, right? And I see everybody's achievements. First 5 minutes of seeing everybody's achievements, I want to shut down my laptop because I don't think I'm achieving enough, right? So notifications are giving me problems because why all of these achievements? I went to sleep last night, I woke up this morning, somebody has gone from a manager to a senior manager. How? What am I going to do about it? Okay? So, but one thing that LinkedIn does in their notification system is that every single time, for example, when somebody likes a post, or somebody comments, or somebody sends you a friend request, they don't send you everything immediately, right? Sometimes you get it immediately, sometimes you get it one day after, or you get it 30 minutes later. What they do is that they aggregate all of the notification events and they send it at once. So when you open LinkedIn, you see 25 people have sent you a connection or something like that. Or 25 people have been promoted. 7 people that work in your company no longer work there. I came up with that, so it doesn't show that. Anyways, that's what you call a digest system. So a digest system or a digest engine is an engine that can aggregate so many events instead of sending you the event at once, because I promise you, if an app is sending you a notification all the time, you're going to uninstall the app. True or true? Right? Even though some people abuse that a lot. I don't want to call names, but there are some apps that you install now. Once you install, immediately you install it. Every 5 minutes. Do you want to buy bread? We have beans on the store now. You know, they're always sending you push notifications, right? But when you have a digest system, you can control and schedule how you want notification events to be sent to people. Just send it every 5 minutes. Or you can do a back off. Send it 5 minutes now, send it 10 minutes later, send it 20 minutes later, send it 2 hours later, right? And then batch all the events together, aggregate everything, and send it at once. A very good example I can use is GitHub, right? If you check GitHub, you know that sometimes you don't get all your notifications immediately, right? Maybe somebody made a comment on a PR, or somebody's reviewing the PR. Instead of getting in it one by one, sometimes you just get it at once. That can be very scary, right? You have sent in a PR, and then there are a lot of comments from different people. Imagine you are getting it every single time. You have fixed it the first time, you have fixed it the second time, you have fixed it the third time, and then in your mind you're set with like, okay, I'm done with this PR. And then you start getting notifications. What about this? What about this? You have not fixed this one. Why are you using this? Why are you using this? That can be very scary. So GitHub digests it and sends it at once. Aggregation, right? Now, to build that kind of system on your own, it's not very easy. It can be very difficult to build a digest system. So what I will be showing you today is how to leverage an existing system to use that in your app. You don't have to build it from scratch. All right, so I'll be talking about Novu today. Novu is an open source project. It's on GitHub. And Novu is a tool that allows you, it's a notification infrastructure, basically. Some people call it a library. I like to call it an API. It's an API that when you integrate in your web apps, it allows you to manage multiple providers at once, manage multiple channels. In fact, let me just go to the next slide. So this is what Novu does, right? Novu is a single API for all messaging providers. I want you to look at it like this. When you look at a gateway and a web app is connected to a gateway, for example, maybe Paystack or Flutterwave. Now, what happens behind the scene is that gateway is also connecting to some other gateways, right? It's connecting to maybe MasterCard or Visa card or even some other, local gateways to try to process a transaction. So that's what Novu does too as well. Novu is like a gateway. When you connect your app to Novu, Novu abstracts all of this code implementation and provides you an interface that allows you to have multiple channels, multiple providers, a digest system, a delay system, and allows you to have so many other things that we are going to be talking about today. So, our workshop has started in full now. This is the first step. So if you are with your laptop or with your phone, you can use the QR code. I put a QR code because I know many people don't like to type. So if you have your phones or your laptop, please scan that QR code. It's going to take you to a dashboard. I need you to sign up on that dashboard. Or you can just type this in your browser if you have your laptop with you, because I want you guys to code with me. We're not going to do a lot of code, just a little bit, because of the way this is arranged. So this is the first step. I need you to sign up on this. So this is the cloud dashboard for Novu. When you sign up on this, what you're going to see is you're going to have a dashboard where you're going to see a lot of things, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So I'm just going to give you like a minute or 2 minutes to sign up. You can sign up with GitHub, you can sign up with your first name and last name, but I'm sure to make it easy, just sign up with GitHub so that it's very fast. So sign up with GitHub. When you sign up, you see a dashboard. Oh, I see we have a lot more people coming to join us. Are they coming for food or coming for the session? So if you are coming for the session, please join us. We are just starting the workshop in full. This is the first step. I need you to sign up on this, or you can take your phone, your laptop, scan this barcode. You're going to sign up on the dashboard, the Novu dashboard. So once you've signed up on the Novu dashboard and you have logged in, please, if you are with your laptop, you can bring it out so that you can follow along with me. Are we done signing up? Huh? Oh, it's blocking it. Okay, just give me a second. Let me see if I can. Can you see it properly now? So if you are using the link, it is bit.ly Novu -web. And again, you don't have to type the link. You can always just scan the barcode. You can just zoom in on your phone or use your laptop webcam. and then just zoom in and sign up on that. All right. So I want to assume that you have signed up. Please, this is very critical because if you don't sign up, you will not have access to your API keys, right? Novo works with API keys. So I need you to sign up so that you can get your keys because we need the keys in this workshop. I need you to sign up so that you can have the keys. All right. So now this is the community channel. So this is not a must, but if you want to join the Discord channel, all the open source contributors from Novo are in this channel. So in case you have any questions, you have any concerns, you need support, they are always here to answer your questions. So feel free to join, but we can talk about this later so that we don't waste time. Let's move on to the next step. So number 2, now that you've signed up on Novo's dashboard, the second step is to create a workflow or choose from the workflow template store. Now I'm going to show you that quickly. So just follow along. So this is the Novo's dashboard, and this is the workflows, right? This is the workflow. So if you have signed up, just click on the sidebar, you see a place called workflows. So one of the first things you do when you want to, start your notification process, when you integrate Novo, is to create a workflow. When you are creating a workflow, you are creating a notification template. Everything starts from a notification template. And I'm going to show you what that means now. So let's go ahead and create a workflow. So we are going to create a blank workflow. So if you cannot see the screen, I'm going to try to zoom it. I don't know if you can see it properly. This screen is weird. But if you have your laptops with you, you can follow along, or your phone. I don't know if it is mobile responsive. So when you create a new workflow, you have a blank slate, a blank workflow. The first thing you have here is your trigger. I'm going to explain that later. The trigger is to actually, trigger the notification. Now, what you need to do is, you see this plus button here, you are going to add a channel. At the beginning of this workshop, I gave you examples of channels. Email is a channel. SMS is a channel. Push is a channel. In-app is a channel, right? So please don't forget, you have the email channel, you have the SMS, you have the in-app, and then you have what again? You have the push. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and add an in-app channel, because what I want to show you in this workshop is how to send in-app notifications, how to build in-app notifications within your web app. So now that we have the in-app, we are going to click on it. The in-app is going to open up an editor. I wish this was clearer. I don't know if it is very clear. Let me see if I can switch the theme. Aha. Oh, I don't know if this is better. This is a light theme. Which one is better, the light theme or the dark theme? The dark. Nice. Okay, let's go back. Children of light. Okay, so remember, we created a workflow, and in the workflow, we added a channel, an in-app channel. Now, in this in-app channel, we double-clicked on the in-app to open the editor for more details. Now, this is the more details. Now, what you can see here is an editor. Now, again, I told you, the first step is to create a workflow, and the workflow is a combination of these steps to create a notification template. So when you send a message, for example, when you send an email, the email has a content, right? It has a body. When you send SMS, it has a body as well. So for in-app 2, we need to write the content of the body, okay? So what should we write here? What do you think? Let's do welcome to OSCA Africa notification workshop. So this is going to be the content of the notifications that will be sent. Right? So now that we've added welcome to OSCA notification workshop, please follow along if you're with your laptop, because it's easier that way. Go ahead and update. Click on update. So it's going to update this workflow. So let's go back to the workflows and look at the latest workflow we have created. So now this is the latest workflow. What we forgot to do was give it a name. So let's give it a name here. Let's call it OSCA Africa workshop. So you can create different types of notification templates. You can create like an onboarding template, the kind of notification you want to be sent when somebody just signs up for the first time, right? If somebody sends a friend request, you can create a friend request notification template. You can create a whatever, different types of templates, right? So this is an example we are using. Let's call it OSCA Africa workshop and update. So if we go back, one thing I need you to note here is the ID. Two things, the name and the ID. So in the ID is like a slug. We all know what a slug is, right? A slug is generated from the title, just using dashes. So we have a slug, and that slug is very important. It is called the trigger ID, and you're going to see where we are going to use it very soon. So now that we have this, let me go back to the slide to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. We have added the in-app channel. Okay, good. This is the next step. So if you're following on your laptop, there are two things I need you to do. You can go to this URL and clone this backend, because I know we have different types of developers here, so I just made it easy. You can clone this backend, or if you don't want to clone it, you can fire up your Postman or your Insomnia, because I'm going to give you a URL that you can, just set up and you can test it from your Postman. That URL is going to do different things. It's going to send a notification. It's going to do other things that we're going to cover in this workshop. All right. So the first thing we want to do is to be able to trigger a notification. But before we trigger a notification, I want us to actually... You have a question? We should go back. Okay. Please let me know if you're not following, because I need you guys to follow so that you can understand what I'm saying. Okay, some of you are still trying to clone it. Okay. So if you can't find this, you can go to my profile on GitHub, Unicode Developer, click on repositories. The first repository you see there is this repository, OSCA Workshop Backend. I hope I made it open source, because I know it was private. I was working on this. I pushed it to GitHub when it was public. What? It's private. Yeah, sorry. I have 25 more minutes. I made it private because I was working on it and I pushed it open source, and somebody went to and liked it. Immediately I pushed it. I said, what's going on here? I quickly put it on private. Some people are monitoring my account. That's why I put it on private. So I'm just going to do it now. There are a lot of important things on my GitHub, so 2FA is very important. Somebody has tried to hack my GitHub account before. Since then, I've been wise. So now it is public. So if you go back to my account, you should see it now. So if you go to Unicode Developer, go to repositories, it should be the first repository you see. OSCA Workshop Backend. Can you see it now? Can you confirm that you can see it? Great. Awesome. So let's continue. All right, so you can clone it on your laptop right now. If you cannot clone it, don't worry. I'm going to show you a URL that you can use to trigger the notification. So let's move to the next slide. Now, we are about to send a notification. But before we trigger a notification, I need us to create a project, a web project, right? We are going to write some basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Don't be scared. It's just very small. Tiny HTML and CSS. Because I need us to be able to add the notification center in the app. Like, I want to assume that you're building a new project now, right? And you have your screen, your HTML, your CSS, your headers, everything. And then you need to show where the notifications is going to show up within the web app. All right, let's go. So I'm just going to move to my terminal right now. Or in fact, let's go to the editor. Okay, so I'm just going to close this. So this is my editor. If it was a smaller group, we'll have gone step by step, but I already put this out here at the back when I was, before I came up. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you see it at all? You can see it? That's amazing. All right, let me try and increase it a bit. Awesome. Can you see it properly? So if you are with your laptop right now following, I just need you to create whatever editor you're using, create an index.html file, an app.js, and a style.css. Don't worry about the style. It can be as ugly as you want. That's not what we are focused on today. We're just focused on you setting up the in-app notifications and you actually receiving a notification right about now. So I want to point out some things here now, right? When you look at the HTML code here, what can you see? In the script tag, I am importing a component, a novel component, right? Now, you can go ahead and do an npm install as well, but because I'm doing a workshop, it's easier for me to just use the linked version. So if you're writing this in your laptop now, please feel free. It's called novel web component.netlify.app/index.js. This is the script that will allow us to actually have the in-app notification center within our app. So I need you to make sure this is working, right? So go ahead, add this. If you're following along on your laptop, add this script because this script is what is going to bring in the notification center. Now, the next step, now that you have brought it in, we are actually going to call the component itself. Again, this is a web component. There are different libraries. We have the Vue component, we have the React, and we have the web component. With the web component, regardless of the technology you like, anybody can use it, right? You can use it in your Vanilla.js project, you can use it in any project. If you are using Vue, there's also the Vue package. If you're using React, I'm sure a lot of people are using React here. I'm joyful. Because anywhere I go, you have more React people. Do you have a lot of people using Vue.js here? Meet me after this session. You are blessed. All right. So, very important. Now that you have linked the web component, I need to point out a section, which is the most important here. Right? This thing has gone off. Okay, give me a second. Okay. So this section is the most important here. This is the notification center component. I need you to, pay attention to this here. The notification center component is what we display the notification center, which we are going to see in a moment. We are going to run. Now, this notification center component has two very important parts. You have the application identifier, which is your app ID, and then you have the subscriber ID. And I'm going to explain what that means. The application identifier is basically it's a public key, right, that Novo uses to identify your app. So all of us here now we all create one app. That's like 100 apps, right? Your app ID is unique. So we are going to have 100 unique app IDs so that when Novo is sending the notification, it can easily identify your app and know where to send the notification to. So then we also have subscriber ID. Now let's quickly go back to the dashboard. The value of your app ID, you're going to get it from your dashboard. So just go back to your dashboard. Give me a second. This is the cost of having so many browsers open. All right. So if you go to your dashboard, I need you to go to your settings. When you go to your settings, you are going to see your application identifier here. So I need you to copy your application identifier and go back to the code and put it there. So copy your application identifier, come here, put it. And then when you're done with that, the second part of this is the subscriber ID. Now, when you sign up on Novo, by default, I want you to go to the subscribers panel. If you go to the subscriber section, you're going to see one subscriber. You're going to see a subscriber ID like this. So when you sign up by default, it already gives you a subscriber ID. So I need you to confirm if you can see that. That is the subscriber ID that we are going to be sending notification to. Towards the end of the workshop, I'm going to show you how to add subscribers. So what is a subscriber? A subscriber is basically the user of your app. So let's say your app has 1,000 users. That means you have 1,000 subscribers, basically. Because it's the users that receive the notification, right? They log in and they can see the notification. So that's a subscriber. So the subscriber ID that you're putting in your index.html is literally your user ID. So you know how, somebody signs up, you put it in database, you either have a UUID or you have a normal ID. That ID is also your subscriber ID. So in the code, all you need to do here is you put the subscriber ID. So now, if you are building a real application, because this is workshop, a real application here is when the user has logged in, you get his ID, right? Whether you're using React or Vue, and then you just attach the ID to the subscriber ID here. That's all you need to do. So now that you've done that, I'm going to show you how it looks like in the browser. All right. So that component, this is the component. This component here, let's go back again. This component that we imported here is what is showing this notification center, just like that. On a normal day, if you were to build this, you are going to build all of this from scratch. You are going to set up, your CSS, build all of that. You are going to also set up your WebSocket and everything. But just by referencing this novel web component and importing it here, you already have a fully fledged, well-styled notification center. I don't understand this. Why am I seeing half of the screen? What can we do about this now? Can you guys see properly now? Okay, good. Here, good. So this is the notification center. Just that component we imported, you can see it here. So when your users log in, that bell, almost everybody remembers that when you log into your app, you look at that bell. In fact, it's muscle memory at this point. That you just go and check that bell to know that, oh, there are notifications here. So this is exactly how you are going to build it for your users. Once you import that novel web component and you click on it, these guys are reminding me I have 15 minutes. Can somebody block them for me? All right. So back to what we were saying. So when you click on this bell, again, I'm just going to reference it a bit. This is the component here. You come back here and you click on it. This is it. Now I'm going to do something now. You see you have some messages here, right? I'm going to delete all of it so that we can do it from scratch and send a notification. We're going to trigger a notification and you're going to actually see it happen here in real time. So let me just go ahead and delete all of this. I'm going to remove all these messages. So the good thing about the notification center is it works exactly like anything that you need in a notification center, right? You can see your messages. You can mark a message as seen. You can mark a message as read. You can delete a message. You can mark everything as read at once. And you don't have to bother about building all that functionality from scratch. It just works out of the box. Good. So now this is empty, right? This is empty. Now let's go ahead and trigger a notification. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to trigger the notification from the back end. Okay? Because of course, when you have an app, you have the front end and you have the back end. The front end is where the users are seeing the in-app notification. The back end is where all the events are happening. The back end is where all the events are happening, right? So when the event happens, somebody in the back end, like the code there must have, sent a notification like, okay, this person just logged in, send him this, send him that, send him that. So we are going to trigger a notification from the back end, and it's going to show on our front end. So I'm going to go back to the slide and show you what you need to do. So let's go back here. You see this trigger notification? I don't know if you guys can see it properly. I just need you to copy this. I don't know if you can see it properly. Can you see it? You know what? I'm going to open Postman now. I don't use Postman. I use Insomnia. How many people use Insomnia here? Thank you. Again, you're blessed. So if you open Insomnia, this is my Insomnia. If you have not tried Insomnia, please Try it today. I'm telling you, it's very beautiful, really awesome. So let's come here to trigger notification. I don't know if you guys can see this thing properly. I'm going to try to increase it again. So here in the URL, you can see OSCA workshop backend.vasel.app/API/trigger notification. So we are going to trigger a notification. And when we trigger the notification, we are going to see that notification actually appear on the front end. Are we following? Please, if you're not following, let me know. Are we following? All right. So again, let's go back to the front end. In the front end, you can see that there's nothing. It is plain, nothing, blank. Let's come here and try to trigger a notification. So here, I'm passing in 3 values. I'm passing in a name, a content, and a UUID. Don't worry about the name and content. I will explain that later. But for now, I'm passing in the subscriber ID, and then I'm going to trigger a notification. Now, when you trigger a notification, it needs to know the subscriber ID as well, so that it knows the user to send the notification to. Are we following? So I'm going to trigger, again, I want you to look at it so that it will not be as if I'm doing Ojoro. Are we clear? There's no magic here. It's going to work in real time. Good. There's nothing here. I'm going to come here and trigger. So it has triggered now, right? Let's go back. Can you see? Do you see the icon? That was not there before. And in the apps you use, you always see the icon, right? It can be different colors. It can be blue, it can be red, it can be green, depending on the, on the theme of the app. So this is it. So let's open it. Voila. Hi, Unicode developer. Welcome to OSCA. Now I'm going to show you where this content is coming from. It's coming from the editor. Let's go back. So if you go back to our workflow, before I came for this presentation, I created a workflow before. I called it workshop. And if I open it, you can see I did this. But I don't want to explain this yet because this might be a little difficult. So let's go back to creating our own and using that template. We created our own before called OSCA Africa, right? So we are going to just use that here. Sorry. Here it said, welcome to OSCA Africa notification workshop. So I'm going to go back to Postman. I'm going to use the local, let me see if it is running. Okay, this is running, just to confirm. Good, this is running. So this is the local one, and I'm going to check the code. In the local code, I need to be sure that it's using the right template, the right workshop notification template. All right, so I'm going to change this trigger ID to be the correct one. Here it's called workshop template. Now, can you remember the trigger ID of the one we just recently created? Let's go back. What's the trigger ID? Let's see. Okay, it is OSCA Africa workshop. So let's go here and copy it here in the environment variable. In the code here, it's just going to call this and trigger. So let's go back and try to run that on Postman again. But let's go back to the front end. We are going to delete this message. In fact, let's not delete it. Let's have it as evidence that this was done before. So I'm going to run it locally now and trigger notification again. I'm going to close it. Okay, I've triggered a notification. I'm going to come back here. Can you see? Now the notification, this is the new one that we just sent. So you can create as many notification templates as possible, and once the backend triggers the notification, immediately, it's real time. Just in how many minutes now? 20 minutes. You don't need to set up you don't need to set up a WebSocket, you don't need to do all of that. Something that would have taken you a week or two, you're doing it in less than 30 minutes. Right? Now you already have an in-app notification. In fact, tomorrow, if your product manager says you want to build an in-app notification into your web app, all you need to do is reference this workshop. In less than 30 minutes, you are done. You can put your estimated time for your product manager. Oh, this is going to take a week and a half. You do it in 2 hours and you go and sleep. Or you travel to Ibiza and have a party. Enjoy yourself. But now you already have your in-app notifications working. So we are going to do something now, right? This is content that we just triggered directly from the dashboard. Welcome to OSCA Africa workshop. But let us go further. I want us to make it dynamic. This is too static, right? Because life is about dynamism, right? Content changes all the time. So let's say you want to say, depending on whatever the user is, and depending on whatever the user's name is, you want to inject the username and make sure the content can always be dynamic. How do you go about it? Let's quickly do that. So we are going to go back to that template again quickly. So I'm going to try to expand this. I don't know if you guys can see it. We're going to come here. Let me close it here. I'll open this again. Now, this is welcome to OSCA Notification, OSCA Africa Notification Workshop. I'm going to inject two variables inside this place. I'm going to inject a username and a message content. So I'm going to change this now to hi username. The good thing about Novu is that you can inject variables using the handlebar, right? I'm going to do hi username. What should we put? Then I'm going to inject another variable called message content. Now take note of these variables that we're injecting. I'm going to update this template, right? So once I update this template, good, it is updated. So from the back end, we are going to inject these two variables so that it can now show on the front end in our in-app notification. So let's go back to the code. So if you go back to the code, in the trigger notification code, you see I'm doing something here. I don't know if you guys can see it. This is blocking it, but I'm going to scroll up. So in the trigger notification, you can see there's a code called payload. Because we are trying to inject the username and message, we are going to send it from the backend as what? A payload. Like a payload is like a vehicle that's carrying something. So we are sending what? The username and the message content as a payload. So on Postman, we are going to send it via Postman now. So let's come back here. So you can see I already put a template, name and the message content. But let's go back. Here we said username. So how come we are using name here? So this, okay. So name is what we put in the code that is getting from the body, so we don't have any problem. But it is username that we are using here. So username, message content. So it's going to send in username and also message. Let's go back here. Okay, something is wrong. Okay, we are sending a payload of username and message. So I'm going to change it from content to message. Okay, so let's go back to trigger. Now, can somebody give me a username apart from Unico developer? Username. Bad Lagos boy. Black Lagos boy. Okay, the Black Lagos boy. Let's use that. The Black Lagos boy. Idon. Right, we're going to use that next. So what should be the content? What should be the content? Give me something interesting. That's too boring. Let the boy breathe. Perfect. Let's use that. Let the poor breathe. All right, good. So let's go back and check again so that we will know that we're not doing any ojoro. Let's go back to our front end. You see, our front end is still there. These are the two notifications we have fired in the past. So let's see. Hopefully this does not embarrass me. Let's go. So let's trigger a notification. The Black Lagos boy, let the poor breathe. So we send. So we are triggering a notification now. Let's go back to our front end and see. Hi, the Black Lagos boy, let the poor breathe. You know, in most of my workshops, I always have technical problems. This is the first one I've not had any technical problem. I'm so excited. Wow. This is a great audience. Clap for yourself. Clap for yourself. How many more minutes do I have? Because I have a lot to talk about, but I want to summarize. How many more minutes? 5. Oh, I see 5 plus 5, 10, Abi. Karen said 5. Ada said 5. So we are good, Abi. Okay, 5 minutes. What can we do in the next 5 minutes? Okay, let's do something. Let's follow along. Now we've been able to trigger a notification, right? So let's create a subscriber. Again, like I said, your users are your subscribers. But for this to work successfully, all the users in your app, in your database, they also have to be created as subscribers on Novo. Novo has to recognize them as subscribers, else it will not be able to process it. So let's quickly create a subscriber via Postman. So if you're following along with your laptop, you can see create subscriber. I'm going to quickly run it on Postman so that you can see what we are doing. Because when you signed up, like I said, it's created only one subscriber, you. So we are trying to now create a new subscriber now. So let's go back to the Novo dashboard again. If you go to the Novo dashboard, let's go to subscribers. So if you check on your own laptop, you will see that you have only one. I've done a lot, so you might see some other ones here, right? So let's just quickly create a new subscriber. So I'm going to go to Postman. I'm going to go to create subscriber. I just put this random stuff here. So I'm going to change this to maybe 88999 kurumu@gmail.com, Prosper Kurumu. I'm going to go ahead and send. So it's going to create a subscriber. So let's see on our dashboard. Can you see? Now we have this new person, right? So you can do that for all your users. Bring them to the dashboard and put it there. So now that we have this subscriber, you can always use this subscriber like we used it to send a notification, right? So I'm just trying to cover some other ground so that you can know what this thing can do for you. So let's go back here. Now, after creating a subscriber, what else? Topics. What are topics? Topic is an easy way to trigger notification to multiple subscribers, which most of you will be doing anyways. What we just did right now was to trigger to one subscriber. So imagine you have different types of users in your app, and you actually need to send notifications to all of them at once, right? Normally, you can trigger to multiple, but with the way the code is, you have to put in all their subscriber IDs. It's a lot. So instead of doing that, you can use topics. Topics, we just categorize them, right? So let's assume that all the people sitting in this row are front-end developers. All the people here are back-end developers. All the people here are DevOps engineers, right? So with topics, you can create a topic, a front-end developer topic, a back-end developer topic, a DevOps engineer topic. So let's try to create a topic now. So we have this URL for creating a topic. Don't worry, I'm going to share my slides after so that you can follow it yourself. So if we go to Postman, I already have something here, create a topic. I'm going to go ahead, let's say DevOps. So with the topic, you just need to have a key and a name. So DevOps. Is it DevOps engineers or DevOps engineers? I don't know English again. I know it's not DevOps developers. That's weird. DevOps. In fact, I'm just going to leave it as DevOps. All right, so create a topic. I don't know why it's taking time. Okay, so after creating a topic, you want to see the topics you have created so far. So let's go to list topics. So we list topics. I'm just going to go ahead and run this again. So when I run it, the response is going to show me all the topics I've created before. Front-end developers, back-end developers, and DevOps. Now, after you create a topic, the next thing you need to do is to add the subscribers to the topics, right? Because this topic is a category. So now you can add a subscriber to the topic, right? So when you want to add a subscriber to the topic, again, you can do it from Postman. I'm going to share all of this. I'm just trying to rush because my time is almost over, right? Now, here you have this. You put in the key, which is the topic key, and then you can add as many subscribers as you want. So what was the ID of that last subscriber that I created before? That was 889. Let me just quickly check from the dashboard. Here, 8899. I'm just going to copy it. Come back here. All right, and I'm going to do this. So it's going to add that new subscriber now to the list of front-end developers. So now I can now go ahead and send, instead of sending a notification or triggering it to one subscriber, I can send it to the topic. Right? So initially I was sending the notification to the subscriber. Instead of sending to the subscriber, I'm now sending the notification to topics. So which means when I send a notification, it will just take all the subscribers within that topic and send the notification to them. All right, so I'm just going to round up. We have seen how to do an in-app notification. I'm going to share my slide. The workshop is online. Um, and then I want you to quickly do me a favor. I want you to go to GitHub right now and check the Novo repository. This is the Novo repository. Okay, it's still loading. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to please start this repo right now in this workshop. If you loved this workshop, let me use that. If you liked this workshop, so that it's not be as if I'm telling you to do something, right? I just want you to quickly go to this repo on GitHub, github.com/novuhq/novu, and start the repository. It just take less than a second, right? Just start the repository, yeah. And yeah, I think that's the end of my talk. So I don't know if there are any questions. Yeah. So how do we do it here now for the questions? Just maybe 3 minutes of questions. I think there's somebody at the back here, there's somebody here. We have a lot of questions, that's great. Just one. But I did not finish my time now. How many minutes? Oh, okay. All right, so they said just one question. But after the session, I'll be at the back. If you have any question, you can just come and meet me. I'll answer your questions.
Thank you very much, sir, for the session. It was really a wonderful session. I wanted to ask that the in-app section this thing added, that can it be configured? Like, can we change the UI? Can we do that?
Yes, very good question. So let me just amplify his question. The question is, that UI that I just added, the notification center, can you modify the UI? Yes. In fact, this library you have the library that ships with this fully fledged CSS, and then you have another library called the headless notification center, right? So if you go to docs.novu.co, I don't know if you can still show it on the screen. In the documentation, you will see that we have what you call a headless notification service. So with that headless comes with no UI because, of course, it's headless, right? So you can build your own UI around it. Now, if that is going to be too much work, you can also take the existing notification center and just modify the CSS. So it has some properties that you can pass to it that allows you to modify the notification bell itself, the color, every single thing, the action, the message item, every single thing that you can modify it there with the CSS. So that's actually a very good question. Okay, so I think that's the only question they will allow. If you have any question, I'm at the back. Please feel free to come and meet me, and I'm going to answer your questions. Thank you very much. I have a talk tomorrow. Please don't miss that talk. I'll be speaking here again tomorrow, but that will not be a workshop. That will be a full-fledged talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, boss. Thank you, sir.
Did you people learn a lot from this session? And
You
the applaud and the energy is not matching the knowledge. Please, can you give him a round of applause?
That's right.
Thank you. That's more like it.
That's right.
Quick announcement before we move on to the next series of talks. I have an Access Bank card with me here. The name of the owner is Oluwashola David Oni. I don't want to butcher your name.
Please, what's your
Onigbinde, yes.
What's
So
your pin, please?
don't listen to this girl. So if you are the owner, please come to me with an ID so that you can claim
And your pin, so that we can claim your money.
so that you can claim your ATM. Thank you.
All right. So before we actually move into the next sessions, I actually want us to do something. Just stand up. You can do it. I know you are.
Stand up, turn
Just
to your
stand
neighbor.
up.
I'm joking, just stand up.
Exactly. You see someone is stretching. It's needed. You need to get the blood flowing. Very important stuff. Now look to your neighbor.
Are we really looking to our neighbor? Wow.
See this one, see they press laptop. Boss, you never learn finish. Leave the rest. He said he will share his slides, no problem. Good. Now look to your neighbor and say, hi, I'm glad to meet you at OSCA Fest 2023. The baritone, soprano, I'm not hearing you people, oh. Do it again, please. That's right. Now you can stretch because we're about to, reshuffle again. Are you guys ready?
Yes, please, you should actually stretch. And the hall is getting full. So I'm thinking that other people are coming back from the other sessions that they were in before.
Oh yeah, stretch, stretch. Shake your body a little bit. Are you not happy to be here? Boss, the two hands are inside your pocket. You are still saying that you're happy to be here. You look like you are fighting with me.
Okay, so before we move on to announcing the next speakers, I want to reiterate the locations again. What hall are we currently in?
Hey!
What hall? Who said what?
Someone even said Mercury. Please, what hall are we in?
We're in Earth. What hall are we in right now? Please, we are in Earth. What hall is over there?
That's right.
What two halls are upstairs? Thank you. So we are in Earth right now. Mars is over there. Saturn and Neptune are upstairs. So based on that, we'll be announcing the next speakers and the locations in case you want to key into those talks.
Great. So the next session is building flexible notifications stroke verifications into your app by Goodness Kayode, and it's going to happen here on planet Earth. And, happening at the same time, we have designing event-driven, scalable serverless apps with AWS service by Chibuike Nwachukwu, and that is holding upstairs at Neptune.
Okay, and then we also have exploring the intersection of open source, algorithms, and data structures by Ifedili Onyegbu, and that's happening in Mars over there. And then we also have when systems fail, lessons learned from real-life incidents as SREs. And this talk is going to be delivered by two people, Jubril Oyetunji and Great Ume Gbewe. I hope I'm not butchering your name. And this is going to be happening at Saturn. So if you are interested in the SRE talk, please go to Saturn. If you are interested in the talk on the intersection between open source, data structures, and algorithms, please go to Mars.
All right, now that we're standing up and blood is flowing through our veins, let's disperse. So if you're here for goodness, please, if you're here for us, please be here. If you're against us, please head upstairs. Guys, we only have 1 minute to actually get to our various halls.
And please give Goodness a round of applause as he comes up. Thank you. This is not a round of applause. Thank you.
Hi. How are you? I'm fine. I'll call you. Thank you. Okay. So I just need to do a slideshow. Do I need to do a slideshow?
Yeah, you can do that. Anything you show here.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not on. Okay, it's on. Okay, everyone, this is a quick announcement. Please, if you have the Idon tickets, go and get your breakfast. If you don't get it, I will eat it on your behalf. So please, if you have the Idon tickets, please just make a stop by and quickly get your breakfast. Thank you.
Can I start? Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Goodness Kaede. I'm the co-founder of SendChamp. And before SendChamp, I was a full-time developer. And I also built like some open source projects that developers use today. So fast forward, I'm going to be talking about building flexible notifications into your applications. I have 15 minutes, so I'm going to use 5 minutes to talk about this topic, 5 minutes to do like a simple demo, and 5 minutes for any questions that you might have. Okay. Okay, I'll just give like a few minutes for this to come up. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so I think we can get started now. So again, my name is Goodness Kaede. Today I'm going to be talking about building flexible notifications in your applications. Like I said, it's a 15 minutes talk, so I'm going to talk about everything we need to know about flexible notifications in 5 minutes, do like a simple demo, and if you have like any questions, you can ask. Okay, so what are notifications? So the same way error logging is very important in our applications, that's the same way notifications are important in our applications. Notifications answer the questions of how do I know what is happening in my application? How do my users know what happened or is happening while using my app? So most times, you find situations where notifications are triggered by actions that users have taken on your application. So for example, someone is trying to like transfer money, let's say like 500K, and like the limit on that account is like 250K, right? So you want to be able to notify the user based on that. There's some, notifications that may not be based on actions. For example, you want a particular user to take a particular action that they would not normally take. Let's say, for example, I want you to update your profile, right, or verify your account so that you can be able to access maybe like a coupon or something on that app, right? Notifications can be very useful to that. So why are notifications important to your project? You want to be able there are several things that notifications can help you do as a developer. So one example is verifications. You want to be able to authenticate your users by sending them like OTPs across channels. So notifications help you with that. Internal notifications. Let's say, for example, you're connected to like a third-party provider, and you want to be able to notify your team about incidents that's happened, or like the wallet balance is low, or there's a downtime. You can make use of notifications. User activities, so a user performs a particular activity. You want to keep your users up to speed with those key actions. Also, user actions, you can notify your users before they carry out an action or when an action is required. And finally, you want to be able to suggest some actions to these users. For example, there's a new update on your app, and you want them to be able to update to the latest version. So the next thing is, what are the channels that can be used to either notify these users or you? So we are not limited to just using a particular channel. Most times there are apps that you make use of today, and you're just saying like SMS, maybe push notifications at times, right? So there are several channels that you can notify your users through, or yourself, or your team. For example, you have like SMS, you have emails, you have push notifications, you have WhatsApp, you also have like some in-app notifications too, right? And you also have like Slack. Some teams make use of Microsoft Teams too. So you can notify your team or your users through these channels. So for example, someone submits like a form on your app, and you want to be able to notify your team that, okay, this particular action has been taken by a user. So you can make use of Slack as a way of notifying your team. So the next question, which is like the main part of this topic, is what are flexible notifications and why is it still a topic today? So this answers like 3 questions that I've noted here. Customers are very dynamic. We've built applications, and we see customers using our applications in different ways, right? So same applies to like notifications. Because I have a phone does not mean that I use WhatsApp to receive notifications. It does not mean that my email is on my phone, right? So there are different ways you can send notifications to customers or to your team. So what flexible notification answers is, have you tried to notify your users or send OTPs through different messaging channels, and you could not get like an easy tool that allows you to access those channels from one place? So today, as developers, we have to like jump from one platform to another platform to integrate different channels that we want to use in our projects. So that's one of the questions that flexible notifications answers. Another one is, have you had to integrate like each messaging channel one by one? You want to integrate Slack notifications, you want to integrate like push notifications into your app. You want to also integrate like in-app notifications, you want to integrate like emails, and you have to jump from like SendGrid, jump to like Twilio, jump to like different platforms, right? Another one is, have you had to integrate like multiple providers for just one channel? So because one particular provider fails every single time, right? So you have to integrate like 2 or 3 other providers to make sure that you have like fallbacks. So this answers the question of why flexible notifications are very important. You want to be able to allow your users to get notified through channels they can easily see messages and take action. Your users have different preferences, so you need a smart way to be able to handle and manage those notifications. So you don't have to start debugging for each channel and on different platforms, basically. So this leads us to the term notification management infrastructure. So what does notification management infrastructure? It means that there's a platform that allows you to manage all your channels in just one place, right? And you are able to have just one point of failure when you are, building, basically. So I'm building a payment app right now, and I am going to make use of like SMS, voice, or emails or WhatsApp, right? And I want to be able to know when my messages did not deliver, right? So you want a single platform that helps you with like login, to know where the issues are coming from, that helps you to process those messages or queue those messages so that your messages do not fail. So there are two, so the next part we're going to go to is what are the simple platforms for managing all your notifications in one place. So I divided it into two categories. The first one is multi-channel communication infrastructure. So this is where you have a single platform that has all these channels. So here, once you integrate them, you have access to all the channels that they have without like any complex setup. So for example, if you're using like SendChamp or you're using Twilio today, you have access to like SMS, WhatsApp, voice, and those channels, right? But there's a second type, which is like the notification handler infrastructure. This platform allows you to also use other platforms that you're familiar with. So these platforms aggregate like different communication providers in one place. This means that, you have the flexibility of choosing the platforms you want to use for each of the channels. So Prosper mentioned Novu. Novu is also one of these notification handler infrastructure. You have Courier, you also have like OneSignal. I know mobile developers know OneSignal because it was mostly used for push notifications before. But right now you can like add, SMS, you can add emails to OneSignal. So in the course of this topic, I'll be focusing on notification handler infrastructure and using Courier as a case study. So my demo is just going to be based on Courier, and I'm going to be very fast about it. So what does it mean to have a flexible notification in your app? It means that you don't have to deal with multiple integrations, right? You integrate Courier once or you integrate Novu once, and you don't have to start integrating different providers. You just need to configure them on a simple dashboard. You have one failure point, one source of truth. When you're sending notifications, you have a single place to track your errors instead of multiple dashboards. Easy routing to different channels. So I can route from SMS to Slack to emails to any channel I want to route to. So logging is also a very important advantage of flexible notification platforms or notification handler infrastructures. So it helps you log issues across providers and channels in one place, so you know where the issue is coming from. So let's say, for example, it's coming from Plivo, or it's coming from SendChamp, or it's coming from Twilio, right? You are able to like know where those issues are coming from. You can easily debug, and of course, you can have templates. And so instead of creating your templates inside your application or in your application, you can make use of all these tools to create those templates, pass the template ID, and you're good to go. So yes, especially for people that don't like manipulating, manipulating like templates. I don't know if you've tried adding like email templates into your app. You know how difficult it can be when you're trying to make adjustments to it. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a short demo. Remember, it has been a while I wrote code, so if my code is messy, please don't laugh at me. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm going to be demoing a very simple app, and yeah. Okay, so I'm going to be showing like the code, so that works. So I worked on this project. It was a mini project for a friend. This is not clear enough. You can, oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay. Is it clear enough? Okay. So I worked on this simple project for someone like 2 months ago. I wanted to like get my hands like really dirty. So I'm not supposed to put my key there. It's supposed to be in like my environment file. But please pardon me. Don't worry, I'm going to I'll close the account when I'm done, or change that key. So, yeah, so 5 minutes, yeah, thanks. So basically what this app does is like, helps you like make requests for like skincare products, basically, right? So, but what I'm going to do basically is that someone is going to fill a form, and I'm going to like send notifications via either SMS or via WhatsApp, right? Or via email to the person. So, yeah, so basically what I had to do was just create a particular service for courier here. And this particular function, right, handles like sending either emails or SMS, without like changing anything. So I'm first going to do a demo with my number. So when it works, I will now ask for your number. So I don't shoot myself in the leg today. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me just fire this request with now. Yeah. Okay, so basically what I'm doing here is after the person fills like the form here, I am sending a notification to the person. Okay, I got it. So I can test it with guys right now. So if you want to share your email, I can always write it and something. Yeah, your phone number too. Okay. 081. Do you want to come forward? Yeah. Mm-hmm. 08109. 934. Mm-hmm. 3220. Okay. So I'm going to just change the channel here. So, I mean, I'm doing this manually, but of course you can pass it into your functions and you are good to go. I'm not using Node more too, so everybody will be all right. So let's see if you got it. Yeah, I think I was supposed to demo like Courier itself. Let me show how Courier works. Okay. Yeah. So basically, right, what you can do when you come to like Courier, you can add like the different channels that you want. So today I'm using like, I've configured like Slack, I've configured Mailgun, I've configured Telenex, right? So you want to put like your credentials there. You can actually even do like a very quick test here. So for example, I can send an SMS here, right, just for you to see. Let me copy this. So you can send that, then after sending that, you now have like logs. You can be able to see those logs and see that your messages were sent and everything. So I think I'm done with like my demo. I don't know if anybody has any question to ask. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry, I wanted to see one.
Can you remember my face? Can you remember my face? Can you?
Hi.
I don't know. I'm looking for someone who can mentor me.
Sorry, I need to remove this mic.
Testing. Testing. All right, great. We're back online. So next session is Getting Started with Kubernetes by Paul Ara, happening in this hall. And at the same time as well, we will be having
He wasn't here, that was right.
Inner Source, bringing open source principles to your organizations, happening in Neptune, upstairs.
And would also be having a talk titled The Role of AI in Technical Writing, Enhancing Human Craft, Not Replacing It. And that's going to be by Joel Olawanle, and that's going to be happening in Mars over there. And we would also be having another mentorship session. So this mentorship session is going to be happening in Saturn, and it's a 15-minute mentorship session with a team upstairs for you to just go sit down and, you know, get whatever form of career mentorship they have available for you. So if you want to attend the mentorship session, please go to the Saturn Hall upstairs. If you want to attend the session on AI helping technical writing, please go to Mars. If you want to attend the Kubernetes session, please stay in this hall. And what's the last session?
That's it.
That's it.
That's
okay.
it. So
Thank
guys,
you,
we have
everyone.
a minute actually to make our way to our various halls. Without further ado, I would like to call on Paul Ara, our next speaker, Getting Started with Kubernetes. Paul Ara.
Is Paul here?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
I think. Our next speaker approaching the stage.
Please, can everyone give Paul a round of applause?
Hello. Right. Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's a nice day, and I hope you've been enjoying the conference so far. My name is Paul Lara, and today I will be talking about getting started with Kubernetes. So I've got when I meet people, I hear people come to me, they ask me, what is Kubernetes? What does Kubernetes entails? And it's usually I saw it tweet a couple of days ago. Someone was saying the ecosystem is so vast and very difficult for a beginner to get started with because there's just so much to learn and you've got this whole information overload. So kind of the goal of this talk is sort of set a baseline knowledge that would sort of equip you with everything you need to know for everything you need to know when you want to work with Kubernetes. So irrespective of what you do, if you're a developer, if you're a technical writer, if you, whatever field you want to get involved with, and you want to understand like how Kubernetes fits into the picture. So that's kind of like the goal of this talk. So, so the first thing first, what's Kubernetes, right? I've seen a couple of definitions of Kubernetes, and if we're being honest, they're very, very accurate. The most popular one, like you'd see from the Kubernetes website, is Kubernetes, also known as KATE, K8 and S, is an open source system for automating the deployment and scaling of containerized applications, right? The thing is, this definition is very accurate, but the problem is that there's so much context lacking, there's so much you need to know for you to understand actually what this means, right? So, not sure why my slides are not working, but so why Kubernetes, right? So for you to really understand like what Kubernetes, you need to understand where we came from before we got to this point, right? So the secret that holds everything together is containers, right? There's something called a container. So like back in the day for like all the developers here, right? You would, and it's still very popular today, right? You would build when you have your application, right? You have your Python code, you have your JavaScript code, irrespective of the language, you would take it and you'll put it on a server, right? And that's how you would expose like the server to the outside world, right? So like previously, like before like the advent of like the cloud and all of that, like the AWS and everything we have today, like back in the day, right? You would actually go and buy like a physical server. You would buy a physical server. You would employ someone that would actually manage that physical server, right? And you would also figure out like everything, manage that physical server yourself. So let's say the physical server needs to be cooled. The physical server needs access to the internet, and everything